Okay, so I want you to do this with me. Hold your fretting hand up like this, then bend it inwards as far as you can. Okay, now bend it outwards as far as you can. That's your wrist's range of motion along that axis. Okay, so now hold your fretting hand straight up again. Now wriggle your fingers as much as you can. Now bend your wrist inwards as much as you can and wriggle your fingers as much as you can. Okay, now bend your wrist outwards as much as you can and wriggle your fingers as much as you can. So which position felt more comfortable? The straight position, right? In the inwards and outwards position, you couldn't move your fingers as much. You maybe felt a little bit of strain, maybe even a little bit of pain, right? It might surprise you to learn this, but there aren't any muscles in your fingers. You only have tendons which are attached to the muscles in your hand and in your forearm. When you bend your wrist in any direction, it means you're pulling those tendons tight, which means your fingers don't have their full range of motion. When you're playing fast technical guitar, or really any kind of guitar, you want your fingers to move as freely as possible, so you need to keep your wrist straight. You can see here how I'm wearing my guitar really low down. Is that too low? Let's take a look. You can see here my wrists are on an angle. Not just my fretting hand, I'm having to bend my right hand as well. So you can see now I've got my guitar raised up a little bit. It's not up around my chin or anything, just to where the upper horn is around my chest. Let's take a look. So you can see my wrists here are straight. How high do you wear your guitar? I've previously been guilty of hanging it around my knees because I thought it looked cool, but it wasn't comfortable then and it isn't comfortable now. The fact is, the higher up you've got your guitar, not only the easier will it be to play, but also the less the risk of you doing yourself any damage. Tendinitis, RSI, carpal tunnel syndrome, all those things are real, especially when, like me, you're getting a little bit older. And they can stop you playing your guitar, so be very careful. My name's Max, and I've been playing guitar for over 30 years, but it's only really in the last few weeks that I've made a proper commitment to get good at it. No false modesty, I'm an okay guitarist. There are some guys watching this who think I'm actually a really good guitarist, and there are some guys watching this who would absolutely smoke me even on their worst day. When I say I'm an okay guitarist, I'm comparing myself to the best in the business, because when you set a target, you may as well set it as high as possible. So of course there'll be lots of scales and modes and exercises and muscle memory stuff, the kind of practice routines that I haven't done since I was 15, and that's all very necessary. But I'm not going to tell you about that because I'm not there yet. This is a guitar gear channel though, so I want to talk real quick about a couple of ways you can use your equipment to make the process easier. We just talked about how to hold your wrists, and believe me that after 2 or 3 hours of practicing scales at increasing speeds, you'll be glad you paid attention to it. But another thing I've been thinking about is this. This is the Jim Dunlop Tortex pick, or plectrum, and it's purple, which makes it 1.14mm thick. I've been playing with these for most of my life, and if I'm honest, I can't remember exactly how I chose this particular model. I've stuck with them because they're pick-shaped, because I like rigid picks, and probably the most important factor is they're for sale in every guitar store ever. But the other week, I was browsing a guitar store website, which is how I spend around 75% of my spare time, and I happened across this, which is a variety pack of picks. So this particular one is called Shred, but there are other packs available. It occurred to me that I'd never even tried most of the picks in the bag, and it was cheap, so I decided to give it a go. Cut to the chase, this is my new pick. It's a Dunlop Jazz 3, and side by side with the old one, you'll notice how much smaller it is. This is important because how much of it protrudes from between your fingers when you play. I'm not going to bang on about it because you really need to try it for yourself, but you really won't believe how much of a difference there is between this and this in terms of how much control you have over what your right hand is doing, if only because your hand is that much closer to the strings. I'm going to link the multi-pack in the description. It's honestly worth checking out. If you don't already have a go-to pick, then this might be your way of finding one. And even if you do have a go-to pick, then this might surprise you. Anyway, that's enough foreplay. This is a Jackson Dinky DK2M Pro in Snow White, and to continue with my admissions of personal shortcomings, up until a couple of years ago, I don't think I'd have even looked twice at this guitar. But I've had this for just over a month now, and it's the most fun I've ever had playing a guitar, and not just because you could do crazy dive bombs with this thing. It's a Super Strat, which is a type of guitar that originated from guitarists in the 70s doing all kinds of crazy things to their Fender Stratocasters. Grover Jackson himself got his start doing just that. So the pedigree here is clear. You've got an older body shaped like a Strat, but a bit smaller and more streamlined. You've got a maple neck and a maple fretboard, but it's got 24 massive frets and a compound radius, which means it's 12 inches at the nut, rising to 16 inches at the body. The neck profile isn't the thinnest I've played, but it's got a flat D profile and a satin finish that make it a piece of cake to get around on. Instead of the Stratocaster's 3 single coils, you've got 2 Seymour Duncan humbuckers, a JB in the bridge and a 59 in the neck. That's kind of the classic Super Strat combination. They're hot, but not too hot. Remember, the hair metal guys weren't going for all-out metal fury. They wanted smooth and articulate tones so you could hear every single note of their shredding. Add to that this 5-way selector so you can split down the coils and still get chimey Strat tones for cleans and more bluesy leads. Lastly, you've got the double locking trem. This one is a Floyd 1000 series, which is Korean made, and although I don't have a lot of experience with Floyds, I don't see anything wrong with this one. Tuning is rock solid, and you can make it do all the tricks, which I won't show you here because I'm not very good at them yet. These days, Jackson is owned by the Fender Musical Instrument Corporation, and this guitar is made in the same factory where Mexican Fender Stratocasters are made. I say this because I'm a huge fan of Mexican Fenders for their level of quality at that price point, which is usually around half of what the American equivalents would cost. The quality of this guitar is absolutely outstanding, and it costs less than $1,000. And it sounds like this. Amp sounds for today are, for the leads, the Neural DSP 14 Cali, for the rhythms, the Neural DSP Archetype Nolly, and for the bass, the Neural DSP Dark Glass Ultra. And if you think I'm pimping Neural DSP, you've got that right because they're awesome, and they're not paying me to say that. Now, of course, you don't need a guitar like this to play crazy shredding technical guitar, but I'm sure you'll agree with me that the world is full of things you don't necessarily need, but can make your life a damn sight easier. You can try to tear up some hot guitar licks on a Gretsch White Falcon, and you can listen to music on a cassette tape, and you can drive to work in a Ford Model T. And you absolutely do you, but there's an argument that it doesn't make a lot of sense to ignore the fact that a lot of very smart guys have put a lot of work into finding a better way. Of course, this is all just gear, and while it helps a little, or sometimes even a lot, I'm not going to claim that there's some magical piece of gear that will turn you into some kind of guitar shredding god. Except to say that I've owned hundreds of guitars in my life, and while many of them have been very cool, only a select few of them have made me want to sit down for hours and hours and practice. Really practice my guitar playing with a view to becoming the shit-hot guitarist I dream of being. This Jackson is one of them, and maybe in its own way, that is a little bit of magic. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.